welcome everybody to this Helpful Village release webinar today. It's a webinar that's a little different because we wanted to do some training. So we sent a few messages out. We invited villages if they wanted to bring in people from that are working with their finances, the treasurers or something like that. And then I'm hoping that you will enjoy this webinar. So we have a few reminders and that we do at the beginning of the webinar. We'll go through those very quickly. I have one feature that I want to present, but that will also go very quickly. And then from there, we will start presenting a training session for treasurers. So everything related to QuickBooks, Stripe, and some Helpful Village financial reports. But let's start with the reminders. Reminder is that there is another Helpful Village release webinar on July 17th, next month, third Wednesday of the month, where basically we'll be presenting improvements and other things. And then there is also another webinar a week from now, June 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern, and that is a Q&A webinar. So basically today is the Helpful Village team presenting changes or presenting training. It's kind of more of a monologue, basically, but obviously interactive if you have questions. But then next week, you have the baton, and basically you ask all the questions, and I'm just there to answer them. There's a couple of resources that are useful here. There is a training docs guide. There is a Helpful Village Help Center where you can find answers to frequently asked questions. And there is a collaborative website that's called Slack, where basically villages can ask questions to each other and then also ask questions to us. So if you're not on Slack, you can request an invite through a ticket creation. And then you're wondering, how can I create a ticket creation? I'm going to answer that in a minute. But before saying so, this is also a reminder, next week we have a Q&A webinar. And if you can send us your questions ahead of time, we have more time to think about them. And then if you can send your questions to hvusers@v2vnetwork.org, those emails will go to Gary Frankel, who's our wonderful national coordinator. He's with a village in Houston, Texas, near Houston. But then also he helps us a lot, kind of putting these questions in order and then helping us figure out and running actually the webinar next week. So if you send us the questions ahead of time, it will be our pleasure to work on them. This is how you create a ticket. So if you have a request for Helpful Village or a bug report or something like that, you can go to support.helpfulvillage.com. Actually, this is where you find, this is the Help Center. It's where you find questions. If you type any question you have all our training docs are on this platform. You can search by topic, or you can navigate using the different chapters or sections of the Help Center that you see below. You can also submit a request on the top right. When it says submit a request, that's how you create your ticket. And then basically it will also give you an opportunity to show you the answer before you submit. There are two websites that we use. That's the Help Center that I was talking about. Is essentially to find answers to your questions. It's a way to report issues or bugs or, basically tasks or requests. If you need a Slack invite, typically you would do it that way. But then when it's about improvement ideas, you do that in a different place. You go to ask.helpfulvillage.com, and that's more a form where basically you can submit ideas to see if we can, keep improving the platform. I'm laughing because this is a slide that I added. Wait a minute. I don't know what happened. Did a funny transition. So basically it's about the release notes. So basically this is a note of the changes in the platform. There are not that many changes in the platform this month for several reasons. One, because we have been busy migrating at least one village from previous provider to Helpful Village. And also I'm doing this call from the Canary Islands, Spain. So basically adapting to the time zone was a mess. So the change that I'm showing next, it will be applied and visible to all our customers on their servers tomorrow or Friday. So we're deploying this very quickly. And then basically this change is the following. This is basically a portion of the registration page. And basically you see here where it says, I'm not a robot. I'm actually gonna get out of the presentation. I'm gonna show you a live demo because it's easier to explain where this is. But basically if you go to your village website, right, this is demo, but yours is similar, and you have your village information here. You have an event calendar like this. You have a list of events. And then here you have a different list of events that is different for each village. And then when you choose a village, and I want to show you here because I'm not logged in. You see here, it says sign in. It means that I signed out for the demo. And then when you go to that event page, you get the event details here. It says the time, the place. You can have a description of the event and a picture. So this one is just as simple as possible. But then when you click on register, we did one change. Here, any person can come in and register for the event with their first name, last name, email. That is super easy. They can sign in if they want, and that's better because it has additional security and stuff like that. But some people don't want to sign in because they just want to register for the event quickly. So we make it possible to register for events without signing in. But then basically the change that I'm discussing here is that before we had a different CAPTCHA strategy, and this CAPTCHA, I don't want to go spend too much time on these technicalities, but this CAPTCHA is a system that detects if the person using the website is a robot or if it's a human. So we use some Google technology for that. What we were doing before is we were using a version of the CAPTCHA that was automatically detecting or assessing if you were a robot or a person. But then basically you were submitting your registration. And then if Google thought that you were a robot, then they would present you with this challenge that, basically saying that you're not a robot, and they present you with a puzzle if they still think that you're a robot. But now what we did is that we're adding the anti kind of CAPTCHA, I'm not a robot checkbox automatically on the form. So, because what we were doing before is that this checkbox was not showing, assuming the people were human. But then if Google thought that this person was a robot, it would bring you back to this page where you needed to check this box. So there was two steps if Google thought you were a robot. And I think maybe Google is a little bit more touchy lately, and they were presenting the challenge more often. So we had two steps. Discussing with some villages, what we decided is that we would add this checkbox all the time because it's just easier in the flow to add your first name, last name, email, phone, and then check this checkbox that I'm not a robot and just register for this event. And then basically that's your registration. I also wanted to let you know that this I'm not a robot checkbox is only a requirement when people are not logged into the website. If you're already logged in, we know that you are you because you had a username and password, so we don't need a CAPTCHA anymore. But these CAPTCHA chapters are only visible to anonymous people. That's it. So that was for this improvement. I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet file, and then we're going to go into training right away. But I need to go into slideshow mode. Okay. Wait a minute. Sorry. Okay. So basically, the rest of this session is going to be treasurer training. So if you're not feeling talking about finances, feel free. You can leave the room. It's not a problem to me. This is recorded also, but I thought, we got several questions. Sometimes it's easier to do a training session for all villages rather than asking the same question, answering the question 20 times. I need to say that obviously, as you know, I am the founder of Helpful Village. I have developed the features and software, etc. I'm an engineer, so I know something about numbers, but maybe not exactly the same numbers. What I'm saying is that I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA, and there might be people in the room that know more about accounting than myself. So what I'm doing here is just explaining how Helpful Village does this. But I don't pretend to be an expert in accounting and finances and stuff like that. And probably there's people in the room that knows more about this than me. So if it is the case, if I say something wrong, I also don't get offended. So please feel free to unmute and correct me if I'm saying something wrong. It doesn't need to be something wrong. If you have something interesting to say, you can also unmute. So I would like to do this session as interactive platforms. If your village is doing something a little differently, or if you have questions or remarks, please feel free to unmute and then jump in. Okay, so I have essentially three items that I'm discussing, but it's actually more like two: QuickBooks and Stripe. And obviously, Helpful Village integrates with both. So the QuickBooks, I guess everyone is knows about what these products are, but basically, Helpful Village is the platform that manages your village website and management. But then basically we integrate the third-party tools that we recommend. One is QuickBooks and for the accounting, and then basically Stripe for the online payments. You can and they are optional, so you can work with different software options for QuickBooks. You can also accept payments through a different platform, that is not a Stripe, but you would do that outside of Helpful Village. Helpful Village only integrates with one online platform, or payment provider, that is a Stripe. But I'm going to give more details about this. But let's jump into QuickBooks right away. So first, we say QuickBooks, but there is more than one QuickBook. So there is essentially two big versions of QuickBooks. There is QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. So QuickBooks Desktop, that's hard to pronounce, is a specific software installed on the accountant's computer. So you basically need to go there and install some software, and then you run this accounting. It's essentially also the old, basically how QuickBooks was run in the beginning. After that, QuickBooks added another software platform that is the QuickBooks Online, which doesn't need to have any installation on a computer. It's something that you can access on the internet with a browser. Intuit is trying. So Intuit, I didn't say it, but it's basically the company that owns the product QuickBooks, right? So the company is trying to have all their customers on QuickBooks Online. So they make both products available. But clearly, when we were studying both options, we saw that QuickBooks was making some features available on the online version, and some of the things were not available on the desktop version. So it's kind of they're maintaining the desktop version, but they don't pretend to have the same quality of service on both. But there are some CPAs or accountants that are used to the desktop version and sometimes are reluctant to switch. So if you talk to your accountant and your accountant say, no, we want to stay on QuickBooks Desktop, in my opinion, it's because they are used to it and then they don't want to change. But my understanding is that Intuit would prefer all customers to switch to the online version. So as I'm saying in the last line, Helpful Village recommends using QuickBooks Online, and it's also the software that we use for our company, for our own accounting. So I know more about it, and I also think it's a better product. So we would recommend going with QuickBooks Online if you are starting, or if you have the choice to do this, or you want to talk with your accountant. You should definitely ask them, if they want to use the desktop version or the online version. For most of the presentation that I'm doing next, I will be talking about QuickBooks Online because I don't use QuickBooks Desktop. And then, as I'm saying here, we recommend QuickBooks Online. Some things apply to both, but essentially, be mostly talking about the QuickBooks Online version. Also need to say that there is a chat on Zoom, but I'm not reading the chat because it's too much to manage my slides, speak, and read the chat at the same time. So it's okay if you have a conversation among yourselves in the chat, but if you want to point out something, please, you need to bring that up, unmuting yourself, asking the question. That's perfectly fine, and we can discuss that question if it applies to a specific slide. Okay, we continue. So now we're talking about QuickBooks Online, right? So let's assume that you chose QuickBooks Online to run your accounting. Well, even if you choose QuickBooks Online, there are different ways to use it, right? QuickBooks Online. You can use it with QuickBooks disconnected from your bank or QuickBooks connected to your bank. So essentially what happens is, like with the first option, disconnected from your bank, what happens is that you have a QuickBooks account, right? And every time you have an accounting transaction, you need to go there and add a record, right? It's like if you had an accounting book and then you need to add a record by hand, right? And I mean, electronically, but basically you say what it is, for what amount, etc. Or the other thing that you can do is that you can import those transactions from a report, right? From a spreadsheet file. And then typically you could go to Helpful Village, produce a report of your payments, right? Import them into QuickBooks Online in the disconnected form. And then basically, do whatever modification you need to do. So you can import onto QuickBooks Online from a Helpful Village report. But as you will see, it's not necessarily the way we recommend. Now, why would you choose the disconnected version? Well, essentially, the main reason I see is that some people, I mean, it's also your account and what they're used to, etc. But essentially, do you trust Intuit connecting to your bank account? I can understand that sometimes when you connect Intuit to your bank account, you might fear that Intuit might, I don't know, do a charge or make a payment, or basically, it's a good question. Should I be giving access to my bank account to somebody? It's a good question. So if you don't trust Intuit, maybe you don't want to do it. Obviously, Intuit does this for thousands of companies in the United States, I do allow Intuit to connect to our bank accounts and credit card statements. I mean, I think they would be crazy if they would. I mean, if they make payments, they shouldn't. They would be stealing from people. So I think they can be trusted. But again, each village and organization is different, and each accountant is different. Sorry. If you choose the quick, I'm sorry with this cough. It's not ideal, but I guess it's a little bit of an allergy. So I apologize for the coughing. Now, if you choose the connected version, no, it's not a different version. It's just there's an option where you can connect QuickBooks. You can add your bank accounts and also your credit card accounts to QuickBooks. That's what I do. Helpful Village uses this method. I go to my QuickBooks account and I say, well, I want to add a bank account. And then there is a way by which you can connect both. You tell QuickBooks what is your bank, and then basically there is a protocol there where you enter your username and password. You can double check this, but essentially you don't enter you don't give your password to QuickBooks, but basically you enter that on your bank platform. But basically you're telling your bank that you're okay with Intuit connecting to your bank account. Now, why do I do this? Is because basically what QuickBooks does is that there is a sync button, and they basically import all the transactions automatically from your bank accounts. And I like that because basically every single movement of money in our bank accounts or credit card statements goes into our accounting. There is no way I forget about, I received these $50. I forgot to enter that into our accounting. It's like all the money that went through our bank accounts or credit cards will be in QuickBooks, because that's basically what the sync does. So basically, rather than adding records like we do on the first disconnected version, what we're doing is classifying the transactions. So they all come in, right, with QuickBooks, with the connection to the bank. And then basically we just need to say, okay, well, this particular transaction is a check we received from this member. So basically just classifying. You can add more information, but you're not creating the records. Now, there are some reports you can use if you want to either import, right? You can go to Helpful Village. If you go, basically I'm drawing there. It's kind of funny because for people that work with tickets with me, they know about this bigger than. It's essentially, if you're thinking about Helpful Village, you go to the menu, you go to the admin area, you go to reports, you go to reporting docs. There are different reports that are presented there. There are some, basically, it's a spreadsheet file that you can generate, right? So there is a report for payments, and you can decide for that report to be produced for whatever date you want. For example, you can say, give me all the payments that were entered in the May, or April and May, or whatever dates work for you. And there are three, well, let me explain this. Basically, you can have payments. So payments is like someone that, for example, purchased an event ticket, or someone that paid for their membership dues. Well, those are payments, and you have a report with payments from Helpful Village about which member paid what. Not only members, can be the public, the audience, but anyone. It's just a spreadsheet file with all your payments. There are other items that are financial items. The second one is donations, right? Donations are a little different. And in Helpful Village, all donations are payments. Kind of funny, so I'll repeat this because it sounded obvious a minute ago, and it's no longer obvious. But basically, a donation is a payment. For us, it's just an amount of money paid at some time with a payment method, etc. But it has some additional information about to which fundraising campaign it went. It's a payment with additional information. So basically, you can think of a donation of an extended form of a payment. It's a payment, actually, with additional information. So when you go to this area here that we're saying, reports, reporting docs, you can produce different spreadsheet files. You can produce, if you produce the payments report, it will include all payments, those that are only payments and those that are also donations, okay? There is another report that allows you to export only the donation, excluding the payments. And then there is another button that allows you to generate a spreadsheet file, which is the payments, excluding the donations. I hope that was clear. I mean, it sounds easy. It's but I mean, those are connected. I don't know how to express that in any other way. There is another report you can find in that area, which will not necessarily be used in QuickBooks, but it's this IOUs. Is another object we created by which the Village has the possibility to create basically IOUs that a member or a person has towards the village. So if a person owes you money because, for example, they purchased an event ticket, but but they haven't paid for it, well, basically there is an IOU associated to the record, and that is telling that this person owes you money for this concept. And you can go to the reporting spreadsheet file area, and you can produce the number of IOUs, and you can see the status if those IOUs have been paid or not paid, if are owed or paid. These IOUs is essentially charges, right? Those are the line items that a member owes you money for something. But a member cannot pay an IOU. Basically, there is another object that is in gray in this list, is an invoice. So an invoice is basically, well, you know what an invoice is. There is an invoice number, etc. But basically, an invoice contains several IOUs, which is the IOUs are the line items of each invoice. So when you have created some IOUs, right, during the month, and then at one point you say, okay, I want to put all these IOUs in an invoice. You go into the pay tab of the person, you create an invoice, and you choose what IOUs you want to include in that invoice. The invoices are visible to your members. The members can log into the platform, and they can see how much money they owe in those invoices. They don't see the IOUs, right? If you didn't want to include them in an invoice, but they can see the invoices, including the line items that they have, and they have the possibility to pay for them online. Or they have also the possibility to send you a check, right? And when you receive the check, you can apply that payment to that invoice. Now, I graded out in this list because basically we will have a spreadsheet file for those invoices, but there is no spreadsheet file. So the specific spreadsheet file for the invoice will come soon, but the invoice capability is already in service. It's a copy-paste mistake. Okay, so now we're moving to Stripe, and then there is a connection between QuickBooks and Stripe. Stock Stripe. So, oh God. Here we go. So there is some Stripe terminology. Before I go into the terminology, Stripe is a platform we use for accepting online payments. Okay, so these payments actually seem to be on the Helpful Village platform because we do a beautiful integration where basically you're on the Helpful Village website, you click on the donate form, you choose your fundraising campaign, and there we include or we integrate Stripe so that basically you enter your credit card information, but when you enter your credit card information, that credit card number doesn't go to Helpful Village. It goes to Stripe, and Stripe is going to check those numbers, validate the transaction, let us know if the payment goes through or not, and it is Stripe that is going to collect the money. So I wanted to give you a little bit of terminology, right, that would be needed by your accountant or treasurer, and it's these three words that you see in the top level items that are payments, fees, and payouts. So payments is pretty simple. It's each financial transaction when you have a member that pays for membership or pays for a ticket or a donation, etc. Each one of those financial transactions in Stripe is called a payment. Okay, each one of these payments will have fees associated with it, and there is a structure of fees that are described in this list. So we accept more than one payment method, right? So we accept with Stripe, you can pay with credit card, or you can pay with ACH, which is basically from the bank account of the member. And here I'm gonna go through the description of the fees, right? So credit card is kind of super quick and convenient because basically if someone pays you with a credit card on the website, that amount is blocked on their credit card immediately, basically. So basically we get immediate approval that you were gonna receive that money, right? Because that amount is immediately blocked on the credit card of the person if the transaction is validated, right? If that person lost the credit card, is reported stolen, then basically we know that that payment did not go through. But if we are telling you that the credit card was paid, well, basically that money was already blocked on the credit card and it would be transferred to your bank account soon after that. There is the ACH method that has much lower fees, right? But the ACH is convenient because it's not as expensive, but it's also slow, basically. So when you initiate the payment, we tell Stripe basically to do the charge. They're going to initiate the charge, but the charge takes about something like 5 business days or something. And at the end of the five business days, we know if the money is gonna come through or not, basically. So it stays in a kind of a pending state for a little longer, and then after a week, basically the bank tells us, yes, we're sending you the money, it will be included in your transfer. So basically, what we do is that we allow credit card payments for when we don't trust or we don't know the person. For example, people that are donating online, not logged in, we will, will encourage them to make a donation with a credit card. ACH is, what we like about ACH is that it has lower fees. So but because it's slower and longer to know if the money is going to be transferred or not, we only do that for people that we trust more. Typically members, right? If you want to enter membership payments, and you have the possibility to do monthly payments for membership with both, actually, with a credit card or with ACH. But basically, if you have a member that's going to be paid monthly, you already know the person, you're in touch with them, etc. So it might make more sense to work with a member if you want to, actually, and have lower fees, to see if they want to set up ACH, if they're okay giving you the routing and account number. It's also a little slower because basically if you want to pay by ACH, what happens is you enter the routing and the account number, but you're not set yet. Basically, there is a verification process. What happens at that time is that Stripe will send 2 micro payments to the bank account of the person, right? That gave you the account number. You want to send basically 13 cents and 7 cents. The amount is different every time, but basically you need to go back to your member and ask them, okay, how many of those cents did you receive in your bank account? They give you 13 cents and 7 cents. You go back onto Helpful Village, you enter the amount of cents that they told you, and that basically authenticates the bank account. So it's a lot more work, basically, because you need to talk with your member a lot more. But if this person is going to be paying for several months, right, and it's worth it to do it, you might want to set up this ACH payment. Okay, now let's discuss about the fees. Okay, so Stripe offers at the top a credit card payment when you create a Stripe account, and we have training docs on the Helpful Village Help Center about how to create an account. When you create an account, and a standard account with Stripe, they give you this deal, which is essentially a 2.9% of the payment amount, which is this variable, and then a plus 30 cents per transaction. So regardless of the amount, they take 30 cents, and that money will go to Stripe, okay? Now, Stripe offers a non-profit rate. So basically, they are okay with giving you a better deal. So instead of 2.9 plus 30 cents, they do something which is 2.2% plus 30 cents. Actually, it's not for all cards. It's a little bit more complicated than this. It's something like they do 2.2% plus 30 cents if you pay with a MasterCard or Visa. But if you pay with an American Express, the percentage is a little different. So you can double check this. By the way, these amounts is not our decision. Helpful Village is not involved with giving you the nonprofit rate. It's something that you need to talk to Stripe directly and ask them, can you please apply the nonprofit rate to our account? And they're gonna put you through some loops there, asking you for some 501c3 documentation, etc., and then give you this better deal. And basically what I'm saying is that also the exact deal you get, this 2.2% plus 30 cents, is not something that is public on their website. It's something that basically they tell you when you talk to them and you ask them to create the nonprofit rate. You ask for the nonprofit rate and you need to wait to see what is the deal that they give you. But this is kind of the most usual deal that they offer. But it's kind of, everyone I know is on this deal, I think. Okay, now, as I said, the fees for the ACH are lower, it's 0.8%, and there is no fix. And then for all online transactions, both if it's by credit card or ACH, there is also a Helpful Village fee. So that one does not go to Stripe, it goes to Helpful Village for our part of the work, just managing the financial transaction and all of that. There is another thing that I wanted to say about this. Yes, the other thing is that for Stripe, there is no setup fees, right? So if you're a new village and you're creating a Stripe account, you can create it as early as possible because basically there is no setup fee and there is no monthly fee. There is only a fee with Stripe every time that there is a successful payment. So if someone goes to your website and got their credit card number wrong or the expiration date wrong or etc., or the payment didn't go through, you pay zero. You only pay money to Stripe, or basically also for these fees, if there is a successful payment that is going to go your way. well, then basically they do the financial transaction. They let us know that it's successful, and then basically they would put that money and they would transfer it to your bank account. I mean, the gross amount minus the fees that they need to deduct. Okay, so that was for fees. And there is this other word that I wanted to define with you. It's called payouts, right? So what happens is that helpful, you might have maybe 10 credit card payments by 10 different members or people of the public, etc. But Stripe is not gonna send to your bank account 10 different transfers, right? So basically what they do, and you have different settings in Stripe that you can set up. You can ask Stripe to send the money your way daily, right? So basically, it usually takes 2 business days for them from the moment you receive a credit card payment, right, to the moment that money gets to your bank account. It usually takes 2 days. It takes a little longer when it's the first time, when you just created the bank account, the Stripe account. It takes about 5 to 7 business days. But when you are in business with them, 2 days after, the money that was deducted from the credit card account goes to your bank account. But as I was saying, they don't do 10 different transfers to your bank account. So basically what they're going to do is that they're going to put a list of payments, right, that were done that day, and they're going to do one transfer. And basically that transfer is called a payout. So that a payout contains different multiple payments, essentially. It's a collection of payments. You can choose, as I was saying, with the settings, you can choose daily. So basically that is the option by which Stripe is sending you the money as often as possible. So every day they send you money, essentially. But sometimes that's a lot of small transactions. So typically something that I do for our own accounting is I tell Stripe, okay, don't send a daily payout, just send it weekly, and you can choose the day of the week. Me personally, I say, well, okay, send the money on Wednesday, and so basically I receive a payout that contains more charges, right? So basically I have the same amount of money, right? It's a little bit delayed, but it has more transactions, so basically I have fewer financial transactions that are included there. So as I was saying there, each payout is a deposit, I would say, includes multiple payments. It's Stripe reports. So now there is another report. We were speaking about the Helpful Village reports you can run, right, for payments and stuff like that. There is also a Stripe report you can run that is very useful. And the Stripe report contains each payment, that happened, and also a little bit more information about the gross amount, the fees, and the net amount that for each one of those payments. But I'm going to show you that in some of the next slides. Okay, so this is a print screen of my Stripe account, right? So if you have your own Stripe account, it might look like this, right? Probably will not have our logo here. It would say the name of your village here. But basically on the menu, you can see these different things. On home, you have some charts and basically descriptor of what's going on. You have the list of payments, and basically all the transactions are listed on this payment side on the left-hand side. And then basically, if you go to the third one, you go to balances, and balances is basically, if you go to overview, for example, it's going to tell you how much money basically Stripe needs to send your way. And then under balances, if you go to payouts, right, which is, you go here on the left, you click on balances, and then once you're on balances, you will be on the overview by default. Then if you go to the right and you click on payouts, then you have the list of payouts that they have done, either that they have done or those that are in transit that will land in your bank account very soon. Okay, so basically, and they give you the amount, saying, basically this is saying, well, Stripe is sending you this much money that is going to this bank account. And then let me see on the right, and it's expected to arrive whatever date. So this on June 20th, okay? So next thing that you do when you're on Stripe is that you choose the payout that you want to see, like, right? So I'm gonna simulate this, but basically I took a print screen of this, but if you click on the 134, it's going to give you the details of that payout, and that payout looks like this, right? So expected to arrive on June 20th. Going to go to our bank account. Sorry, God. Wait a minute, because I clicked on the wrong thing. And then basically it's going to give you a description of what is included in that payout. As I told you, this is basically a collection of multiple payments, and now here they call it charges, right? Because they are so fun. If you could have refunds, adjustments, or application fees, etc. But basically what it tells you here is that, well, there were 2 payments with a gross amount of this, and then basically they took these fees. These were the 2.9% and 0.8 and stuff like that that we said before, and this is a total of this much money. And then I have these application fees that you would not have, but this is something that's specific to us, but you have the total of that, and they give you a payout of 134.36. There is an important button here at the bottom. When you look after the summary, if you click on export, you can produce a spreadsheet file from Stripe. And I'm going to show you that spreadsheet file in the next screen. Okay, so I downloaded that spreadsheet file. It's actually the same payout, right? So for each payout, you have a spreadsheet file that is telling you, okay, there is a payment that has an ID that was created at this date and time with this description. So basically here, this is what we get as a company, right? Helpful Village, with someone paid a Helpful Village invoice for May 2024. But you will get the description that Helpful Village creates here for you, which can be something like Manuel Acevedo donated on Helpful Village, something like that. Or this other person made a membership payment of this, etc. But then what I wanted to show you here is that this spreadsheet file is giving you a little bit more details about this amount. That's basically the gross amount, right? That was shown to the person on Helpful Village, the currency. Well, for most of our customers, USD, but we have Canadian customers, and for them, it's in Canadian dollars. That is a converted amount, but it's converting from US dollars to US dollars, so it's not super exciting. And then you have another column here that is showing you the fee. So here is where you can come, and we have sometimes this conversation with villages saying, well, where is this fees coming from? We are super happy. I mean, please feel free to calculate this fee, but basically what you would do here is like you do the 82.66. If you have the standard rate, you would multiply this by 2.9% plus 30 cents, etc. And that needs to give you the result of this 0.66. And then obviously if you do the gross amount minus the fees, you get the net. And then basically the net is what Stripe is going to deposit into your bank account. So basically in this case, Stripe will deposit in our bank account 82 plus 50. And then there were other application fees, but that is something that is weird for us, for Helpful Village, because we're not a village essentially. But basically, you're going to use this spreadsheet file along with the Helpful Village reports, basically to go then into QuickBooks and say, what was that money for, right? And that, I think, is my next slide. So be careful here, because it's a quick transition. Basically, what I'm doing here is that I did a few print screens of our QuickBooks Online account, right? So this is not Stripe, this is QuickBooks, but it's basically because we need to reconnect, like kind of close the loop and go back to QuickBooks once we have the information of payment from Stripe. So when I log into our QuickBooks account, you have a long menu here where they do a lot of things, but essentially the most interesting part is home, where you have a summary and description, and then basically bank transactions. When you choose bank transactions, basically this is what I was showing you, letting you know the Stripe, there is a button that allows to synchronize my bank account with QuickBooks, and then it will look like this. There is a transaction date, a description that is coming from the bank statement, and then basically an amount, etc. So if we are doing here, this is actually a Stripe transfer, right? So this would be a payout of 637 that is here. But as we said before, 637 is not one single payment on Helpful Village, it's multiple payments. So I wanted to show you that one thing that you can do is you can come down here. You can categorize this, saying, well, this is a deposit, and you can have different accounts. This is something you need to discuss with your accountant. I'm not good enough for this, but it's basically saying if you want to have different books, one for membership payments or event payments or something like that, you choose here. This is where you do your classification. You can add a memo. But then basically, if you have a payment, like we were saying, for a payout that contains multiple payments, there is this button here that is called split. And if you click on a split, basically it opens up this other window where you can enter, basically, this is the split of this transaction, right? So we're saying, okay, there's multiple rows for 637. This is the total amount, but I'm splitting it. So now I can say, okay, this was a ticket purchase, this was a membership payment, etc. So you can, this is on QuickBooks where you can come in and give the details per independent payment. Okay, I'm gonna pause here for a second to see if we have questions. I have more content to show you after that, because I need to discuss some other things for Stripe, but I would like to take some questions here, because before we bring in other things. So if anyone wants to ask a question. I see Steve raised his hand. There is an electronic hand you can raise if you want to use it. Steve, you don't need to use it because I saw you, but there is other people I cannot see. So if other people I cannot see on the screen, there is an electronic hand you can raise, and that will bring you to my attention. And then I'm happy to have this conversation, try to answer this question. So Steve, you go in first. So thank you for asking your question.
So it looks to me like you have data that you can import from Helpful Village itself as a CSV file, or you can import from Stripe.
Yes.
So
yes. Well, actually, you don't just I'm sorry if I kind of changed something you said, but I just want to be precise about this. So basically, because QuickBooks takes the money from the bank account, right? So not Stripe, but basically Stripe had sent a deposit to your bank account, right?
Okay.
So basically QuickBooks is not connecting to Stripe. QuickBooks is connecting to your bank. And your bank received a payment from Stripe that then you can split and decide what it is for.
So I guess, so here's my confusion. If I have access to the report for donations and payments that are in Helpful Village, and I upload that into QuickBooks, haven't I uploaded all the information in?
It's a very interesting question.
And then how does it reconcile with what's coming from the bank account? Where does it match it?
Yeah, so you need to do, first, there is more than one way to do it, right? So there is a matter of preference there. What happens with the Helpful Village reports is that we're not aware of the deal you got with a Stripe, actually. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, as I was saying before, they're
so it's
giving
showing only a net amount. It's not showing the gross.
Exactly. So you don't have the fees and the net and the gross, etc. So my preference would go towards connecting to your bank account, right? And then that will give you, as I'm showing here, I found a deposit that was made by Stripe to our bank account, and then I click on it. And then once I click on it, now I can see the details of this previous file. I'm going to go one slide before this one, right? And this one is the report I generated from Stripe, right? And then you see here, well, the total amount, the converted amount, the fees, and the net. You see what I'm saying? So then from here, you can already take the fees, right? That you don't have on the Helpful Village account. Now, the information on this report is obviously very similar to the information you can have from the payments report on Helpful Village, right? Except you don't have the fees and the net. Right, so maybe you need to print both and cross them off from one side and the other side.
Okay, so it looks like you have to open up the Helpful Village report and say, Steve Lorberbaum just paid his dues, his membership dues. I paid $100. But money comes into the bank, and it now shows up in QuickBooks as $92. But it's not going to show that it's from me, or that $8 was used as a fee. So you've got to open up Helpful Village and Stripe in order to get it accurate to say that was Steve's $94 grossed up for $6 for the administrative Stripe fee. Is that right?
Almost. It's an excellent question. So there's a lot of detail here. So I need to break it down a little bit. So basically, Helpful Village is talking to Stripe, right? When we accept the payment. And basically, we're managing here the description, right? And in this description, we're going to add what was the payment for. So basically here, if you had a membership payment, right, for Steve Loberbaum, here we say membership payment by Steve Loberbaum. It's already present in Stripe because Helpful Village is talking to Stripe. So you don't technically need to go to Helpful Village to do it. Okay, that's one part of the answer. There is a second part, right? It's like this Stripe report is smarter than that because it has been enriched with information from Helpful Village. Now, the second part is you need to remember that Stripe only includes the online payments that were made. See what I'm saying? So, for example, if you receive a credit card payment or a bank payment, it's going to be on the Stripe report. But if someone sends you a check, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The checks are not showing on Stripe because it's not an online payment. You see what I'm saying? So that one, you need to take it maybe from a Helpful Village report saying, oh yeah, this is the $100 report, etc. No, and then on Stripe, you will find a deposit of $100, right? When you deposited your check. And then you need to basically cross-check it with your Helpful Village report saying, oh yeah, this $100 check that was deposited on the 15th of June is actually the membership payment that was paid by a check that we received at that time. See what I'm saying? So you still
Yes.
have to go both with Stripe for the online payments, I would say, but then for all the offline payments on Helpful Village, you can accept cash, check. You see what I'm saying? Though you can create those financial records on Helpful Village, and we definitely recommend it because you want to have on Helpful Village on the member profile basically the history of all payments they have made, regardless of what payment method they used.
Okay, so in other words, this is not like a web connect, like your bank, where Helpful Village just feeds all the information in, and then you can reconcile it with your bank account to make sure you've captured all the data.
Yeah, no, we don't have that.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool.
Perfect.
Excellent. And then maybe, Steve, I have another opportunity to say for everyone in this room that obviously, as all these financial things are pretty complex, this webinar is recorded, right? So if someone has not caught, a specific answer I gave, or, they will be able to, we're going to publish this on YouTube, and basically you can come in and review it, basically double check if you understood it right or something like that. Cool. Do we have any other questions until here? And then also, I would say two things, because sometimes it's hard to have questions during the live session. If we have questions during the live session, I'm happy to try answer them now. If you need a little bit more time, we're meeting next week also with a Q&A session. So if you need more time to ask your questions, please send them to Gary. As we said before, I would be happy also to answer those questions next week. Perfect. Do we have any other live questions at this time? I have other important information to show you. So if you don't, I will still ask you to stay around because I need to show you more stuff. Actually, let me show you more stuff. And then if there are questions, we'll get back to those questions after that. Okay, I would recommend we take 5 seconds. I'm going to open another chapter that is a little different. It's obviously about finance, right? But just you need to kind of put a garbage return in your brain saying, well, what we're doing here is a classification, a reconciliation of the payments. Now I'm going to talk about something on Stripe that is different. The nonprofit fee. Got here. As I showed before, right, you can get a better deal so that you don't pay as much fees to Stripe because they have a discounted rate for nonprofits, right? Now, don't worry too much at the beginning. If you're creating a Stripe, if you're a new village and you're creating a new Stripe account, you don't need to worry about what type of account you're opening. You need to open a standard account. You don't need to worry about nonprofit or nonprofit. And then after this, the account has been created, you can send an email to sales+nonprofit@stripe.com and then request them to apply the nonprofit rate after the fact, okay? And so you create a normal account and then you talk to them saying, okay, can we get a better deal? Right now, they will ask for a few things, not in particular the 501c3 documentation, but that's fair, right? Because they want to give you the nonprofit fees to basically nonprofit, so that's okay. But there is more technicalities here we need to discuss about. I would say a few things. First, Stripe over the years, they have been changing their deal a little bit. At the beginning, our first customers, they got a better deal because Stripe was not. They were actually giving the nonprofit rate for all transactions. Like, okay, we have, if you're a nonprofit, if you're doing business with us, we give you the 2.2%, and that's fair. But then over the years, we keep sending villages to them, but then villages have come back to us. Basically, we're letting us know that Stripe has become a little bit more touchy with their nonprofit rate. And when you first send them an email, right, saying ask for everything, because I don't know, you see what I'm saying? Ask them to give you the nonprofit rate, but the chances are that they're gonna tell you the following: is that they need the 501c3 documentation that has not changed, but we have seen villages getting denied because there is a new condition they added saying that at least 80% of the transactions managed by Stripe needed to be donations and not payments, right? And those are two different tax-deductible donations. So those are two different objects. So, and they're very clear, kind of membership payments are not considered donations and stuff like that. So we have some villages that said, well, okay, we don't get to 80% because we have other revenue sources so basically for that reason, we did not get the nonprofit rate. But I need to tell you that you can still get the nonprofit rate with a trick I'm going to give you the next slide. And I was talking to them. So this is information I got directly from Stripe, and it's the following. And I'm already running this, basically. So this is information I got directly from Stripe, and it's the following. And I'm already running this, basically. So this is information I got directly from Stripe, and it's the following. So you can have 2 Stripe accounts and then basically use one Stripe account with a standard rate for your payments and then one Stripe account that you use for your donations. And when I say you have 2 Stripe accounts, they are not entirely separate. So basically it's kind of more like, you create a Stripe account and then basically you can have 2 different sub accounts. And then ask them saying, okay, give us the standard rate for one of those sub accounts and then give us the nonprofit rate for the other sub account. And then if you do that, basically, Helpful Village can connect 2 of your Stripe accounts and basically route them, right? So that when someone is using the donation form, we're gonna use the Stripe account that has the nonprofit rate that is for donations. And because we do that, basically, and all the transactions on that account will be donations. And for that reason, we will be above the 80%. So Stripe is happy. See what I'm saying? Don't be discouraged. They tell you, oh, well, because sometimes they're a little vague when they talk to you. Like, are 80% of your payments donations? And maybe you say no. Well, then you think you're out. But actually, you need to be very careful. And if they say you 80%, you can tell them. It's like, well, we actually want to create 2 Stripe accounts, one for our payments, one for our donation. Very clearly, the donations one, because we're good citizens, we're going to use it with the nonprofit rate, and the rate of transactions on that account will clearly be above 80%. So those conditions are verified. So for all people in this call, you need to go back and check. If you have only one Stripe account, you need to know that for sure your village can get a better deal if you add a second Stripe account and we connect it with Helpful Village. And this is okay, I'll go back because there is another slide, but it's about a different thing. And I see Marianne that raised her hand.
Yeah, I couldn't find the electronic raising my hand, so.
That's good. No,
so you said 80% of the transaction. I mean, we do have both of them. We set that up from the beginning. You probably,
well, yes,
either you or they instructed us, and we've been, at it more than a year and a half. So, but is it 80% in money amounts or 80% in number of transactions? Do you know?
Yeah, no, I don't know. My understanding is that it was in amounts. Now you need to talk to them with that. But
like if we bring in 10,000 a year, then 80% of that 10,000 needs to be in donations versus membership payments.
Yeah, let's slow down. So that is only the case if you only have one Stripe account. You see what I'm saying? What I was trying to say here is that if you already have 2 Stripe accounts that you connected with Helpful, you don't need to worry about anything because we're going to apply the nonprofit rate for all of your donations.
Right.
But so basically, this is where I wanted to be careful, basically, for people, because you need to expect for people that are creating talking to Stripe, requesting the nonprofit rate, you need to be ready for them to say, no, we don't give it. Do you satisfy this condition? Don't let it go just then. You see what I'm saying? Like, well, not for all our transactions if we had one Stripe account. But what we're thinking is that we can create 2 Stripe accounts, right? And use one for the tax-deductible donations where we apply the nonprofit rate. You see what I'm saying? And then that's it. And then, basically what I'm saying is that ask for the nonprofit rate for everything. If they don't want to give it to you or they give you this condition that seems not validated, I'm telling you, it is validated if you get back to them one more time saying, well, actually, what we want to do is set up 2 Stripe accounts, right? And then we will use the one with the nonprofit rate for all our donations, and then you will be happy with that. And they told me, I was talking with their people, and they told me they are happy with that. So, it's not, we're not doing anything weird. We're just going the way they wanted us to go. They gave me some extra work because now suddenly I need to do 2 connections and do more magic, but that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. That was great. Okay, the next one is kind of some information that we need to give out because we get this question sometimes. Because we get the question, is Helpful Village integrates with other providers, right? Because we are talking about Stripe and how their deal is, but there are other payment providers out there. There is PayPal or other things. And we sometimes get this question about, do you integrate other payment providers like PayPal and stuff like that? And the answer is no, we only integrate Stripe. And here I just wanted to explain why. First, when we did our research, right, about different payment providers, we found that they were a very reputable provider, both financially, right, but also technically. So basically, they're a very solid company, but also their technology is very solid. I had worked with PayPal in the past, and I'm sorry to say that PayPal at one point, they had 10 different products for the online payments. Their documentation was a mess and stuff like that. And then it was complicated. It's just, maybe to a user, they sound the same, but basically for us, from the technical perspective, it's very important that we are working with a payment provider that has consistent and well-designed API, because otherwise, our code it makes no sense. The other thing that I wanted to say is that we have a good amount of code that we wrote to beautifully integrate Stripe with Helpful Village. Because you see the credit card payments, the bank account verification and things like that. We have other things like, for example, the monthly payment you can set up both for your donations or maybe for your membership payments. And then when that happens, basically Stripe, when you set that up, right, on Helpful Village, you say, okay, I want to create this account. I want to create a monthly payment or a monthly donation for this person. Basically, Helpful Village is going to instruct Stripe to withdraw the money monthly. Monthly. But then if something happens with that payment, for example, if the credit card was reported stolen or anything, if the payment fails, Stripe is going to talk to Helpful Village, and then Helpful Village is going to send you an email saying that, basically the payment didn't go through. We're going to give you the reason why the payment didn't happen. And then you can talk to your member about, if they had a stolen card or something like that, etc. So there is a fair amount of code that is there, and we definitely would be crazy to do the same for Stripe and then PayPal and 10 other things, because then we would spend all the time doing that. So we just selected the best, what we thought was the best financial provider, and then we did a beautiful and deep integration of their services into Helpful Village. Okay, cool. So that was this information. And then here I'm going to pause again. If we have other questions, this would be a good time. I'm going to have a look at the chat to see if there are other questions. And I know that we are, although at the time, I'm just going to read the chat. If someone has a question, you can unmute and ask it, but while I read. Okay, yeah, there is one great question. Let me see if it's moving a little bit. So definitely, there is one good question here is about refunds, right? So you can initiate a payment, or the member can initiate a payment, and then the payment will go into, if you go to admin menu, admin reports, you also have an interactive list of payments, right? So you can produce a spreadsheet file, but you also have a list, an interactive list. And from that interactive list, actually, let me share my screen one more time. I don't know where my browser went. Wait a minute, is this? Okay, here. Okay. Well, that was not the browser I was looking for, but that's fine. I'm gonna go to demo. I'm gonna sign in. Okay, so I just logged in. Actually, something that is interesting here, maybe that I didn't have time to say, but is that if on the payment, if actually it's showing me my profile, and the same profile I can go through here. So maybe you're familiar to find it through here, but actually we made it so that there is this message saying that there are unpaid invoices. If you need to go to the pay tab, so if you're coming as a member, I would see this message. I click to the pay tab. I can see that there is a $25 invoice that has been created. I can view it. And then from here, I can pay this invoice. It's going to offer me the possibility to pay with credit card or other methods or send a check or whatever. But this is not what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you is if I go to admin reports and then I go to reporting docs. when I'm in reporting docs, there are many reports. So these 2 smart reports here at the top, there's plenty of spreadsheet files for different things, membership, volunteer, all people, etc. And then, but at the bottom of this, there are some reports here for payments, donations, and donate payments without donation that I said before. And then, but this is basically spreadsheet files. But if you go here to the bottom, these are interactive reports. So if you look at this, you press on this button. What I mean by interactive is on the website. You have the list of all the payments that have been entered, right? And these are renew membership, etc. So basically here, you can go to the next page, you can search, or you can do these other things. And then from each one of these payments, you can click on view. That will give you the details of this payment. And then you have here also the possibility to click edit. And when you go under edit, when you have the possibility here to initiate the refund. So obviously, if it's a cash payment, there's no refund button here. But if it's a credit card or a Stripe payment, you can initiate the refund from here. And that will put the money back into the credit card of your member. It's not immediate, actually. So if a person paid twice or whatever, you need to send the money back or something, you can initiate the refund from here. You will get a message if you press on this button. And essentially, the money gets refunded back to the credit card of the member in something like 7 days. But there is a message that explains how much time that would be for. Okay, just giving a quick read. Oh, cool. There's a bookkeeping reference in the chat for people that don't know, so that's great. And then there is one last question maybe they can discuss. Is the separation between full fee and partial fee really worth the effort? Oh, since it takes just an initial setting up, I think anything you can save is worth it. Exactly. So that I would agree entirely with this. So basically, partial fee, I think we're talking about the nonprofit fee. I would say yes, exactly. So basically, the nonprofit fee is something that you need to set up one time. And then once they give you the nonprofit fee, we're going to apply that for all the rest of your payments. So yeah, you do it once, a little bit annoying to get it done, but it's not that much. It's like it's the same process actually you do to connect your one standard account. You do pretty much the same thing. You need to go on Helpful Village, press. Actually, let me show that here too. Admin reports. Go to reporting docs. And then on reporting docs, there is this button here that says connect credit card payment with Stripe. When you click on that button, it will redirect you to Stripe. And then on Stripe, you need to select the bank account that you want. There will be an authorized button, basically authorizing Helpful Village to process the transaction for you. And when you click authorize, basically there is a secret key that Stripe will send us, and we will put that key onto the server. And from that moment, well, basically those payments are possible. Okay, I need to stop talking because I got excited about this, but we're also going beyond the hour, and I don't like taking too much time from our people. I wanted to thank everyone that was present at this webinar. This will be recorded. The recording will be posted on Slack. If you're not in Slack, definitely send us an invite because there is a lot of information, including the recording of these webinars. I wanted to thank especially people that are not used to this type of webinar, people that are treasurers or financial people, etc., because they didn't know the crazy engineer that does these webinars and stuff. And if you survived, it's great. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody. And then again, we're meeting again next week. So if you didn't have enough today, we can have more of a conversation next week too. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.